call this meeting to order. So good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
We will now have our roll call by Bridget.
Bridget, you're on mute.
Thank you for the heads up. Maxine Drew.
Maxine Drew present.
Yolanda Clark.
Yolanda Clark present.
Janie Humphreys.
Janie Humphreys is here.
Randy Lopez.
Randy Lopez present.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Wanda Brownlee Page.
Valdina Nguyen.
Valdina Nguyen present.
And Stacy Yeager.
Stacy here.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Before we get started, I want to go through our board norms and protocol. That as a board, we agree to respect differences of opinions in making decisions for the district, to follow best practices in managing the superintendent and the management of the board itself, to stay on task when conducting business for the district, including while at board meetings, to never surprise the superintendent or each other when conducting official business of the district, to read these norms at the beginning of each board meeting and at board workshop as a reminder of how to conduct our meetings, to continually self-check to determine if we are following our norms when conducting district business. And with that being said, I'd like to first thank each of you for the work that has been done in our school district. So many times we are engaged in working and addressing school business, and often we inadvertently fail to acknowledge the great work that many from the central office and other staff are doing for this school district. At this time, I want to say thank you. With all the changes that's going on in our city, the state, our nation, and even within the world, sometimes it's just best to say thank you. Last week, we agreed to address concerns and questions various board members may have had relating to information about budget. We had several technical difficulties. We only met for about an hour and 45 minutes. So each member was asked at that particular meeting to submit questions at an appropriate time to give the staff enough time to research and find answers to the questions. We met on June 23rd, and then we scheduled to meet on July 7th. Board members had time to look through information regarding the budget, and we waited until the weekend of July 4th to submit questions to be answered. Some of the things I do want us to consider as we operate as a board of 7. We are still one unit. We must be conscious of the work that the staff will do as we requested. Time seems to be a factor that we adhere to for ourselves, yet we expect things to be done immediately. Using appropriate language without insults and a tone of putting people down need to be an improving area we as a board member need to be conscious of. Respectfully addressing concerns, whether we agree or disagree, is a way we must improve. Time seems to be a factor that we fail to consider when we meet. Meetings held as late as 11 o'clock p.m. is not always necessary. I would suggest that we choose additional times that we can meet so that we can set them up to continue on with things. Accordingly, I was always taught to be continuous with kind comments to each person that I speak to in order to change the dynamics of working together, whether I agree with them or not. With all that being said, I feel that professional trust does not exist within us as a board. We are all here because we were elected by the community for the purpose to do what we can to educate our students in Kansas City, Kansas. And as long as we continue on this path of little to no unification, we will not move forward to inspire excellence within the district. Leadership requires not always controlling, but maintaining respect and professional trust among all staff. I encourage each board member to be reflective and decide how you can do better to help us to become stronger. With COVID-19 now a part of our lives, I recommend we unify as a board to help the superintendent and his staff bring forth a plan with our support to help further our students' educational environment for the 2021 school year. And I just wanted to preface our meeting today because that's what our goal is, to be able to address the needs of what we can do as a board. And again, I ask you, the school board, to consider those things. I'm not trying to control, but I just want us to begin to think about what we can do to help our students to be better within the school year. Thank you all for listening. With that being said, I now need a motion that we approve the special agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded that we approve the special agenda. Bridget, could you please do the vote for this, please?
I can. And let's see, here's. Take vote. Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Janie Humphreys,
Jenny Humphries, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, yes.
Valdinia Nguyen,
Valdina Nguyen, yes.
Stacy Yeager.
Stacy, yes.
Thank you. Unanimous if it passes.
Thank you. We're now ready for us to have our discussion on the budget presentation. If anyone have any questions.
Good afternoon, Board Chair and Vice Chair and members. Today, we have a couple of presentations that people want to bring before the board. And so I think we're going to start with the group for the insurance. And I think Dom is going to do that one.
Yes, hi, both myself and Kristen. Welcome, thank you very much. If I give me a, pull this up. Sorry, I'm trying to share here. Apologize for that. Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Faust, and members of the board. I do want to appreciate the opportunity to share our preliminary survey data with you this evening. For you who may not know me, I'm Dom DeRosa. I'm the president-elect for NEA KCK, as well as a member of the insurance committee. With me presenting today is also Kristen Shuck. She's our incoming vice president for the NEA KCK and also a longtime member of the insurance committee.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good evening.
In a response to a request from the Board of Education for more information, a small group of members from the Insurance Committee met to discuss our desired outcome from this survey. As representatives of our respective groups, we wanted to make sure that all staff had an opportunity to share their opinions. With this in mind, we created a survey to check in with employees about how they felt about a switch in insurance carriers. As of July 10th, 2020, 1,338 employees had completed the survey. The first question asked the employee to identify their department. You'll notice that 95 identified as other. In looking at the second question where they were asked to provide their department, if it was other, 43 would fall into the certified category and the others would fall into a classified staff position.
We provided links to the United Healthcare's website so that employees could be searched for their current providers, as well as attached a copy of the benefits plan breakdowns that were provided by CBIZ to the insurance committee. As of today, we have 1,432 responses to the survey, but we didn't have time to synthesize all the data to share with this body. The survey will close on Friday at 5 p.m. to allow more people to have an opportunity to share their thoughts. We asked the employees to share the names of their providers not found to be covered by UHC, and that information will be shared with the insurance committee and CBIZ. We did notice a trend between the providers listed as not covered. Most of these physicians are located at KU Meds clinics, Johnson County Pediatrics, Heartland Medical Group, Sunflower Medical Group, and Spiral Care clinics.
Here, we attached the list of prescriptions that CBRIS provided the committee that list the prescriptions covered by UHC. Employees were able to access this document as they took the survey. Some employees reported being unable to find their prescription in the list provided, and a little over 30% of the employees indicated that their prescription switched tiers. Many of these moved up to a higher tier, which means a higher copay for prescriptions that they have covered.
We asked, one of the concerns that had been mentioned during the committee meetings was pre-scheduled or pre-authorized procedures. The committee decided to include this question to ascertain how many employees this switch would affect. We know that these employees would need to have their procedures pre-approved by UHC if they happen on or after January 1st of 2021. But we wanted to know how many would experience a gap in coverage. As we understand it, any patient requiring post-procedure treatment or therapy as a result of the procedure already pre-approved by Blue Cross Blue Shield would need to get new pre-authorization from UHC. This could result in a loss or delay of treatment or therapy.
One of the major differences between the two plans was the coverage with chiropractic care. Currently, with Blue Cross Blue Shield, the insured is allotted 60 visits to be split between chiropractic, physical, and occupational therapies. UHC separates this into 30 chiropractic and 30 physical and occupational therapy visits. There had been talk that this would be a major blow to members of our staff, and we were looking to see how many would be affected. This question asks if they utilize the chiropractic, physical, or occupational therapy visits. And the following question asks if they use more than 30 occupation or physical therapy visits in a calendar year.
The Employee Assistance Program provides mental health care, among other things, to KCKPS employees at no cost for the first 6 visits for any event per person or family member per year under Blue Cross Blue Shield. As the committee understood it, UHC is offering 6 visits per person per year. The committee is still unsure if that offer is per event or total. Our survey indicates that 70% of our employees view the EAP as an important benefit in their mental health care. This benefit is offered by both Blue Cross Blue Shield and UHC, with the main difference being whether it's virtual, in person, or both. And as you can see by the graph here, that the majority of our staff would prefer the combination of telehealth and in person.
At the time of our survey, there was discussion about switching the dental insurance carrier as well as health insurance carrier. The next few slides cover employee preferences for the current carrier, Guardian, versus the recommended carrier, MetLife. Since the publishing of this survey, the committee has been informed that the district no longer wishes to switch dental carriers at this time. We are providing this data knowing that the current rate with Guardian is only locked in for 1 additional year, and we may be looking at this same option in May of 2021.
The next set of slides asks the big question: which provider would you prefer? We asked employees whether they wanted to continue with the current carrier, Blue Cross Blue Shield, if it meant an increase in premium for them. A little over 67% of the employees said they wanted to stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield. In the comments, some stipulated that they would take the increase as long as the increase was not more than $20 per month. When asked about the satisfaction service from Blue Cross Blue Shield, over 93% were very satisfied or satisfied with Blue Cross Blue Shield. The survey provided employees the opportunity to compare their plans they have chosen to the UHC equivalent. After reviewing their current plans, 84% elected to stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield. In the comments, several employees stated that they did not see enough difference in the coverage to recommend switching carriers.
Dom and I would like to thank the members of the insurance committee that helped draft this survey and encourage their coworkers to complete it. We have provided the board with a copy of employee comments shared in the survey. There are many who are concerned and anxious about switching health insurance carriers at a time of a global pandemic. Thank you for your time. At this time, Dom and I would like to open up for questions.
Are there any questions or comments?
When you did the survey, this is Wanda Brownlee Page. Did you interview any retirees? Because we get the benefit of the insurance plan that's offered by the district. The difference is that we pay for it. So I didn't know if you got a chance to interview them.
We did have a few retired members that participate in the health insurance that the district provides complete the survey. They reached out and asked if they could have it. We have different means of communication with them. So we do have some retired perspective in our survey data.
Well, can you give us a little bit of what they thought of the plan?
It's mixed in with our aggregate data. We had 2, I believe, leave a comment about how they utilize it, but we don't have any other data to back that up.
Okay. Thank you, sweetheart.
We would be willing to try to reach out to more of the retired members who use our insurance to get more information.
You, anyone else?
I just want to say thanks. I had been a part of those committee, insurance committee, so I just want to thank you guys for giving additional information that the board had asked for. Also, those meetings are ran very well. It's a lot of good communication going back and forth. So appreciate you being able to provide us with the details that we asked for. So thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Yeager.
Again, like I said, thank you all for presenting this so that will help us to be able to make decisions as far as the direction we will be going in.
Appreciate your time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, next is, I think, Billy and his group. They, as part of the negotiations this year with the teachers union, there was a clause that we would meet to discuss a possible early retirement situation. And Billy, and I can't remember who else, he's got to bring that back to you guys. So I'll turn it over to Billy.
Good afternoon, board. Good afternoon, Madam President. Good afternoon, Superintendent. Very excited to share with you some plans. So let's get to it. I am here with Lori Martin.
Hello.
Teacher, and she's going to be assisting in this presentation. So, as Mr. Covington mentioned, part of negotiations this year, we as a bargaining unit were able to agree with the district to add a joint committee of NEA KCK designated representatives and board designated representatives to be formed to review a possible COVID-19 one-time buyout program using the federal CARES funding before August of 2020. So with that in mind, a committee had meetings and developed 3 plans that we'd like to share with you tonight. Those plans have been based on the early separation agreement that some of you are familiar with in the current negotiated agreement. And we thought to have an opening of that for a one-time year. Currently, only teachers hired before 1996 are eligible for the buyout. And we thought that in this time, we would open it to teachers under several circumstances to have a buyout for this particular school year. The table that is linked here, you guys received earlier and has a breakdown that we'll get to. And you can have time for questions here at the end. As far as the rationale, like Lori Martin to talk a little bit about the thinking from our committee.
Thanks, Billy. I first want to start with thank you. Thank you to the board for causing us a reason to join together. And second of all, as you see, we wanted to acknowledge Ms. Tushman and Mr. Covington. They were invaluable in our doing our due diligence. So thanks so much for even giving us this committee. I know everybody hears about committees and the idea is great, but I want you to know we put in about a collective 20 hours with some pretty serious work on that. Our rationale was that we looked at the CDC guidelines and we said we want to take that at-risk factor of those people over 55, but we want to honor especially longtime educators in the state of Kansas because these are Kansas funds. Second of all, we wanted to look at their dedication to KCKPS. I know that as a board, you're aware that we have had a revolving door for new employees. These are your tried and your true. These are your people who have been here over time. We also wanted to make sure that if these people did take the buyout, that there would be a return to the district in that in all reality, in all probability, they would be replaced with lower salaried people who would, in the end, save the district money. I want you to know we took this very seriously, and the whole concept of how much is a life worth and how much is a year worth is not an easy answer or even a pretty question. And therefore, we are indebted to the work that was done some 30 years ago, 25, with that first committee. And I want you to know that we are on the back of that committee. And so though I say to you, we put in 30 hours as a committee with due diligence, countless hours went into the framework. And so I want to give a shout out to some of those people who may or may not be with us any longer for their original work that gave us the bones of this. I'm going to turn it back to Billy so that we can look at those specific plans.
So all three of the plans share with Article 15 in the negotiated agreement. The early separation plan is here linked, and it's worded and based on what is in the agreement currently. If the board were to choose to do this plan, it would not be added into the contract. It would be separate from that. It is a one-time buyout as we agreed to, and it would just be based on these criteria. So all of the teachers that we are going to offer this plan to, if it is approved, have taught in KCK for at least 5 years and have been between the ages of 55 and 61. Teachers that were also hired after 1996, since the teachers hired before 96 were eligible for the current early separation agreement, they are not in this proposal and only would be covered under the early separation in the contract already. Teachers would receive a payout of a portion of their unused sick leave, and teachers would receive a portion of their salary until they turn 62 and are able to access their retirement. Teachers would be able to buy into district health insurance at no cost to the district. The teachers involved here, if they choose to take this plan, would take on the full cost of their insurance, as mentioned earlier. So the three plans that we have do have different costs associated with them. And so the first plan is the smallest, and this plan is teachers who have 25 years of experience. And so there are 7 total teachers in this plan. And these are teachers who have 25 years of experience in education, at least 5 years of experience in KCK, and were hired after 1996. I want to point to 3 things on this slide. Okay, so the yearly cost here is how much it will cost if they take the early separation, and then the total cost of the separation. Our plan bridges from ages 55 to 61, and I am showing 2 teachers who are age 55 and would take this all the way. And then there's 3 teachers at this who would need that age, and that is the total cost here. And then 1 teacher who is 56 and 57, 58 respectively. And so the total cost over this, if these 7 teachers, the smallest grouping of 25 years experience, would be a total cost over the next 7, for these 7 teachers, would be $469,000 of the early separation program. The disability payout is a one-time payout, and so that would be this year. And these 2 numbers together are equal to this. And so the total cost of the early separation program would be these 2 numbers together. And this is the smallest of our 3 plans. The second plan would be teachers with 20 years of experience. There are 16 teachers in this grouping, and there are the costs associated with the first year, and then the total cost for each of these teachers to reach age 62 under this plan. And finally, they would again receive a disability payout equal to a portion of their unused sick days. And the third plan is teachers who have 15 years of experience, and this is a total of 20 teachers, and would have a cost associated with this early separation period of first year, and then the total. And this is the disability payout number associated with this smallest, the largest grouping of teachers. And as far as the considerations that we know ahead of time going in, that the number of teachers that we were able to work on this data with is exactly how much the ceiling would be. The number of teachers taking a buyout may decline because not all 20 of these individuals may elect this, but there are possibility that some may choose to appeal that they are not included based on information that HR did not have currently on file. Rachel Swartz was amazing in getting us this data and was wonderful about helping us develop the spreadsheet that you have access to that has all of the individuals' teacher salaries and their breakdowns. And so
I want to jump in here, Billy, just for a second, if I could, about that July 27th. Again, time can be either an enemy or an asset. And we looked at July 27th seriously in order to assist the district in having time to find personnel who could help with our district. And so I need you to understand that we want to serve the district well in terms of that July 27th date. It would have to be pretty fast. I mean, it's an urgent, with urgency that we're looking at that time, because teachers would have to see the value of their retirement and commit or not commit. And that's why I'm going to go back to that first point. The number of teachers taking that buyout will fluctuate, but you will have a firm number by July 27th. It will only go down from there in the event that not everyone takes that full buyout.
And as far as our wrapping up, we are here for your questions and concerns so that we can address any of the thinking that you might have. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Brain. It's good seeing you. And thank you, Lori Martin. We really appreciate you for presenting this information. So do any of the board members have any questions concerning this or any comments?
This is Wanda Brownlee Page. I took advantage of the early buyout prior to 1996. So on the disability, I know they only paid us up to 120 days. How many days are we talking about with this?
That is exactly the amount of days that they are willing to pay. And we have all of that factored into the cost there. So 120 is the cap. We modeled it just on the language that is already existing there.
Okay.
Right, we didn't change that at all because we believed in the research and the energy that was put into this prior to 1996. So we left that buyout option exactly the same, exactly.
Anyone else?
This is Dr. Nguyen. I have a question for Mr. Goheen. Is he on tonight?
Yes, I am on.
Okay, so what does the contract say now as to the early separation? What are the provisions of the early separation? Briefly, please, because we don't have a lot of time.
Sure. The early separation agreement that is provided right now is only eligible for employees that were employed prior to 1996. It does have a payout of sick days based upon a proration, as Ms. Page indicated. And there's a, I can't remember what the provision of the contract is, but there's a payout based upon when the employee is retiring as well. I can pull it up and forward it to you guys.
And so is there provision in the contract, master contract, that said that notification had to be provided at a certain time?
For yes, there is. But for the current provision, it's before the end of it's before the start of the school year.
No, I'm not talking about the current provision. I'm talking about what was in the contract.
You requested an April date for those who are eligible for the 1996 or before buyout, and we just changed that under our eligibility requirements to D and switched that to July 27th, 2020. Your existing buyout language does not change. It's still in the contract and it's still an April date. So there will be no additional buyouts because if they were asking for that buyout, they would have had to have done so already.
Okay. So I guess I'll come back then. So you're saying there is also a clause that you could change the date to July 27th?
No.
And please, I'm sorry, no?
No,
okay.
What we have done, there's no clause in the existing contract. What we're presenting is an addendum to that contract that followed the same language, and we sent it to you as a draft proposal, as an addendum. And in that, we took the same precautions that you did or that were originally done and just added a D that we must, that those who want to apply must complete the COVID-related separation buyout request on or before July 27th.
Okay,
so we just changed the date.
Okay, so if your first, I'll call it plan one, was it addressed the teachers that would fall under this early separation plan as is, correct?
No,
No.
the Plan 1 people are not eligible for the current buyout. Those 7 individuals in Plan 1 with 25 years or more experience were hired after August 1st, 1996, and are not eligible in the existing plan.
So are there any people eligible in the existing plan?
Yes, there are. I don't know what the numbers are. But there's a smaller number each year of employees who were hired prior to 1996 that are still eligible for the current retirement plan.
Because the cutoff is 1996, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. And
Yes.
so Mr. Brame and Ms. Martin, the reason I'm asking that is that first, I'm not familiar with this provision in the contract. And, you know, being as respectful and understanding, I'm a little concerned because I would then not direct the question to you, but to Mr. Goheen. Please refresh my memory as to when we authorized a committee to go down this road.
The request for the committee came during the negotiation sessions from the union to put a committee together to be able to present a proposal on the early retirement plan for the COVID buyout. And that was one of the agreements that was reached during the session to put that committee together to bring something forward to the board. There was no agreement reached on any outcome from the committee. It was just
No, I'm not saying that. I realize that's why we're here this
Sure.
evening, about the outcome. But this is for Ms. Martin and Mr. Brame. For this board member, this is a surprise. And I can't say it any other way that, you know, we go through these norms at the beginning about surprises. And so when your proposal came, it was with recognition, you all have done a lot of work because these involve people's lives. So I understand the seriousness of this, but this is a surprise to this board member. And that's what I'm very concerned about because we're up against a deadline. And do you expect us to make a decision this evening? And I guess that's a question to you, Mr. Goheen, or anybody else.
I don't think there's any item noticed up on the special agenda for any decision making tonight. I think the only issue was this was a presentation, an opportunity for them to present this to the board as they reach whatever recommendation they had. Obviously, if you decide to go down this path, there would have to be some funding allocated to it. And so that's, I think, why the proposal is being presented tonight.
And recognizing this is a decision that is weighed against all other allocation of funds decisions that you're in the process of making, we only ask that it is a time sensitive for both the district and the individuals involved. It would be a big shift life change wise if they were to shift as folks into being an early separated retired teacher rather than preparations to return. There would be need for the district to replace that employee, one of those 20 at the ceiling. So those would be time-based considerations. Apologies that there was less access to the information. This plan came together in this last week, and so.
Yeah. So would they also have spoken with CAPERS? Would they be eligible to retire?
The CAPERS question is something that teachers can consider as a, in addition to this buyout, because there is a portion of our proposal that says this would not interfere with their CAPERS. And so they could have a CAPERS amount and an early separation buyout amount, just as in the previous agreement.
Okay. Thank you for your cooperation.
I also, I want to throw out two important things, at least to me. the board contract was signed on June 20th, and that is where the addendum for the committee was placed. And so it has been out there, Dr. Nguyen. I'm
No.
very sorry that you feel surprised.
I never questioned your intent one way or the other. So never.
And again,
this is an internal conversation that internal. You know, I'll reveal to you now, the board has not had that internal. So no, that's why I thought I'd preface to begin with. No disrespect to you or to your team, Mr. Brain, because you've never been anything but honest. But I want to be honest with you likewise.
Right, and I also want to address one other thing, and that is the integrity of the work that you have before you is unbelievable. I have been on numerous committees in my tenure as a teacher, and without fail, this is the best, thorough, dedicated committee I've been on in terms of the amount of time and the respect to data. Everyone from Kelly and Mr. Covington from the get-go had us digging deeper and setting stronger parameters. And this data is very transparent and true. And I just want to say thank you for letting me be a part of the committee.
This is Janie Humphreys. I have a couple of things that I'd like to bring up. I was not aware that the committee was already meeting. I thought we were supposed to have board designated people on the committee, so I apologize for not realizing that you were already meeting so that I could express a couple of concerns. I have the ultimate respect for the teachers in our district, and I understand the concerns with coming back in the COVID environment, but we also have other employees in our district that have the same concerns and age-related concerns. Many of our custodial food service workers, office workers and stuff are also in that 55 plus CDC guidelines concerns, being exposed to the COVID environment. Many of our younger people are immune suppressed and are live with elderly or take care of the elderly. This addresses just a small portion of our employees, and we have to look at the big picture of all of our employees when we're looking at how do we serve all of our staff. So we've got a lot of questions to ask, a lot of big decisions to make that not only affect our teaching staff, but all of our employees and all of our children. So there's not a simple answer for a very complex situation. So I hope you keep that in mind as we go on and do a lot of deep thinking before we reach a decision. And thank you for putting all this together for us, but realize it's not something that we can make a quick decision on. So that's my sobering thoughts on it. So thank you, Billy and Lori, for everything you've put together for us, and we will do a lot of thinking and consideration.
Hey, Billy and Martin, thank you, or Lori, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for, I'll echo the thanks from Janie and the rest of the board for your work and your preparation and really your thoughtfulness on the preparation. I mean, this, you can tell that definitely you all did your homework and dug into the numbers and everything. So I really appreciate that. Can you remind me, Billy, I wasn't sure, maybe I misunderstood or misheard, of the total number of teachers that are potentially eligible for this, do you have a sense of that they would all take advantage of this if it were offered, or do you have a rough estimate of what that might look like? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I had sent an email in Outlook to all 20 of the individuals to just see how that would respond and to just let them know we'd be presenting tonight on behalf of them. I did hear from 2 of the 20 who off the bat said, this isn't right for me. I can't financially make this work. And so I can give you those names in my hard data, and we could have a factual number that's 18 instead of 20, and we could take those salaries out. If you want to have that conversation with the true number, there are always a chance that there's a person whose file data that when we pulled it was not 100% accurate to the true thing, and they may appeal to it. The reason I left them in my presentation is in case there were 1 or 2 people whose birthday was wrong or they had been overlooked somehow in our data collection, that they might be the 1 or 2 who were to add in on appeal, and it turns out that they do meet all the qualifications and we just didn't have them in our spreadsheet. So I know that 20 is the ceiling, and so if I were gonna guess or just make an estimate, I'd say it'd be closer to 20% of that number that says, no, I don't think this will work. So 3 or 4 teachers would say, I don't know. I do know that we had 2 members on our committee who were helping to draft who also fit some of the qualifications in our largest group of the 20 teachers. And they represent the kind of folks who are looking for something in this time because they feel like they're a part of the CDC guidelines of folks who need to not be doing in-person instruction. So this would be something they could reach for. So
Great, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And this, and maybe this is for Mr. Covington. This is, so the monies to pay for this would come out of the CARES Act. Did I understand that correctly? Or where would this line item budget come from?
It was suggested that it comes from the CARES Act. I've been reading up on the CARES Act funding and haven't found a definitive that we could pay for this out of CARES. There is some language on retirement, but it talks more about IRAs. But I'm still researching if that's an allowable CARES expenditure.
Okay.
Based on what they're trying to do, I would think it would be, but I'm not sure.
Otherwise, we'd have to find something out of our regular line item to pay for that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
One-time fund.
But would it pay for
I
the whole
also-
7 years? Or would it only pay for the 1 year?
Well, I can't remember if the proposal was the lump sum, all paid out in 1 year.
So we have the numbers both directions. We have the number that it would cost for this school year to pay that. They would then join up with the line item of early separation in future years. It would never be more than the first year because like 4 of the folks are 61. So next year they would be ineligible, and it tells you how many months they would receive it. And so the ceiling is 84 months, but each month people would be turning 62 and become ineligible for the benefit as they arrive there.
So this wouldn't be a one-time payout. There would be money each year having to come out until it's all paid off.
Yeah,
Yes.
all that is in the idea.
Right. So it wouldn't just be coming out of this year's CARES Act. It'd be coming out of successive years.
One of the options that the group did agree to was that if you wanted to do a one-time payout, that we could take that back to the people as well. The other thing that we did look at the 12 allowable uses of the CARES Relief Fund, and under those 12 acts, number 2 does allow for the coordination and preparedness response effort, including efforts to prevent, prepare for, and respond to coronavirus, which I believe Mr. Covington is how that got under the CARES umbrella. I'm just wanting to be upfront in that.
Okay, I would recommend that what we would do is we wait and have that information, because as Mr. Covington said, he's still researching to have it be brought to us for our next board meeting on next week, so we can look at it and make a decision. And then also we'll have to be conscious of the fact that not only is it going to affect certified workers, but also classified, and we can do some research on that as well. So I would suggest, again, want to thank you all for presenting this, and then as a board, we can look at the information at our next board meeting. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Mr. Brain. Ms. Martin, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, I do have Josh. He wants to come back and answer Dr. Wynn's question from the last meeting.
Okay.
He has some information to share.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Board, Dr. Wynn, Superintendent. I'm just happy to come back and chat with you about community eligibility again. I had an opportunity to bring information, I think answered Dr. Wynn's question about students and who are serving and not serving. First, I want to lead off by saying we serve every student regardless of their eligibility status. I think what Dr. Wynn was talking about is the number of paid students that would be impacted by not getting free meals through community eligibility. We, as of June 26th, total of, 22,796 students. Of those students, we have about 3,400 that are paid students. Of those paid students, I did provide a breakdown of who those students are. 1,500 of them just did not turn in any application at all. 1,700 had income listed on their application that was too much, so they did not qualify for free or reduced meals. And then we had a small group that were non-responsive to verification. Verification is when nutritional services asks a random group of individuals to prove to us their income. We have a very small percentage that actually does so. And so this non-responsive, if they're a free student based on income, they don't respond to our verification, they go unpaid. They do have the opportunity to go back on free, but they do have to prove to us what their income is. We have over 2,800 reduced students and over 16,000 free students. Those students that, if we elected the 12 schools that we've been talking about 388 of them would be eating for free on CEP. The rest of the 3,088 students would not be eating for free. They'd be eating based on their eligibility status and charged accordingly. So we're back to talk to you tonight again about community eligibility. We have our 12 schools that we're recommending, and then also some information about what it would cost if we extended this to 4 additional schools. So I'm going to leave this on the screen if there's any questions, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions?
So, thank you, Mr. Mathesmeyer. So are you seeking usage of CEP so that you don't have to get the applications?
So we want the applications for everyone, regardless who they are, what school is CEP or not, because that has a huge impact on at-risk funding. CEP just removes one barrier from families on being able to participate in meals. It allows for those 12 schools to have free meals regardless of what their eligibility status is. We think that's a good thing. If we decided not to elect CEP for anybody, everyone would pay based on their eligibility status.
Well, as I'm sure you know, CEP status has been discussed as a mechanism to identifying at-risk funding, period. So it is, that's why I asked you, you don't have to, while you prefer to have applications, yes, because that is where we get our at-risk stats from. if at any time the CEP pre-certification shifts to top of the list, that then would only speak to how many are CEP?
Students or schools?
However you students, let's say students right now.
I believe the last answer I gave to you, I don't have in front of me, is around 3,200, the number of students that would eat free meals regardless of their eligibility status.
So what I'm saying, worst case scenario, if we get funding at risk based on 3,200 students, we're through. Okay. So could you then go to your next slide, please? And here's where I'm having the mental block. Why do you need $223,000 extra dollars?
So when we first presented, we talked about ISP at bringing a break even of 56%. The group on the left, 12, together, they equal 57%. If I start adding more schools, either one or all four of those schools on your right, Wellborn, Whittier, Quindaro, and JFK, we dip below 56%. So that's below our break even. And as a federal food service fund, we're not allowed to go in the negative. And that's where we would have to have some sort of general fund contribution because we're below our break even point.
But didn't you just say you'd feed all students anyway?
We feed all students regardless of their eligibility status. What I'm saying is that if we elect CEP in more than these 12 schools, it's going to cost the district money.
So if you don't elect CEP and you feed everybody, what does it cost?
If we fed everybody not using CEP.
That you're feeding right now.
So I think I heard you ask the question, if we fed everybody for free, what would it cost? We don't feed everybody for free.
You say you feed everybody anyway. That's what I'm saying. So are you going into a negative 223 right now?
No. The negative 223 is if we add these 4 schools to the 12 recommended CEP list.
Okay, well, that's where my mental block comes in. I'll apologize for it, because it does. If your train of logic says you feed everybody anyway, and we haven't, and what is our loss? And we come up short every year. Is that what you're saying?
So we feed everybody. We feed anybody who wants to eat. How they pay us is what we're talking about. Whether they pay us based on their income or whether they don't pay us anything because they go to one of these schools.
Correct. So March 2020, you did not have these additional schools, correct?
In March 2020, we had 47 schools on CEP. We talked about our numbers plummeting over the last 4 years. We have to recertify this year, and so that's what we're talking about. If we don't take any action, none of our students will eat under the community eligibility provision. If we take action to approve these 12 schools will eat regardless of their eligibility status for free. If we include these next 4, it will cost the general fund over $200,000.
So I guess that's my question, is that if everyone eats, then why would we go in the hole 223,000?
There are 2 different programs. So what you're talking about is free and reduced. So we have students complete an application. That's one thing. What Josh is talking about is CEP. That's another program. And so the students who are on the CEP program, let's say they don't meet the mold of having a free and reduced, they would still eat for free because they're in that program at that school. That all ran out this year because they have to recertify it. So that's why we're coming back and having to say this is where we are. So yes, we definitely want all students to complete a free and reduced application because that affects our federal numbers. So we have to have that. And this is in addition to what he's talking about. So we're talking about 2 different things. You have free and reduced and you have your CEP program.
And I understand that because the CEP are pre-certified. I get that. If they're on SNAP, If there are 10, if that qualifies them, correct?
That qualifies a number, and we, schools are eligible based on that number.
Correct. So I understand that there are two different categories. And again, what I clearly wanted to say, and I said it, is that if the CEP becomes the trigger for at risk, we're sunk. And that has been the discussion. But nevertheless, thank you for your effort.
But I can tell you, as far as that risk goes, we had over 21,000 meal applications turned in this year, and 47 of our schools were on CEP.
Oh, I know. That's a driver. That's a driver for funds all the way around. So that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I fully understand what CEP stands for. That's what I was trying to say. But so thank you.
So to clarify, do we need to make a decision now, or is that the decision that we need to discuss for next Tuesday? Dennis, when does it need to be made?
If you all are going to elect to add the 4 additional schools, that would be a line item in the budget that we would have to permanently fund for the 223,000.
But if we do not and just stick with the break-even ones,
there's no impact on the general fund.
So we need to make a decision so that you will know which way to go. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Other comments? So could we get a motion?
I make a motion that we accept the schools that will allow the district to break even as proposed by Josh. I mean, not as proposed, but as presented by Josh on the screen, that we would accept the schools that are break even.
Could I get it seconded, please? I second it. Are there any questions? Bridget, could you go ahead and do a vote for us to approve it?
Madam President, I think there is a question. I saw some people coming off mute.
Yeah, I came off mute, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I am a touch bit confused. However, what we're approving, are we just approving for this coming school year?
Yes.
Okay, so, and I know that no final decisions have been made on schooling and all of that. We're really looking at extending to other schools, and we're looking at budget dollars here. Can I want to make sure I'm on the same page with everybody. Are we looking at the costs? Is that what we are? Is that what where the real concern is? Or is it the fact that we're extending or considering expanding the schools?
I think what if the board decides that we want to include the additional 4 schools on CEP, meaning all students that go to those 4 schools eat for free, irregardless of their at-risk status. To do that, it's going to eat into child nutrition's budget. And by law, they cannot go in the negative. So we would have to fund the negative out of your general fund to the tune of the $200,000.
Okay, thank you. So the motion on the floor says we stay the way we are and not do that.
Right, that we keep just the 12 schools.
Okay.
Yeah, so that we won't go on the negative and have to take money from another fund.
Okay, I have one more clarifying question. With the way that schools are looking, although I know we don't have a hard answer, is there already potentially going to be some savings there already this year?
Is that question for me?
I guess it's for whoever can answer me. I'm sorry.
Can you ask
Whoever knows how to answer my
question
again? My question is, I know we don't have a hard and fast on how school will be this year, but are we potentially already looking at having some savings? And I did use the word potentially, since school may or may not be in session every day, or maybe some half and halves, like we don't know what that looks like. Are we,
Ms. Clark, that
who wants to answer that question? I understand as well, because it's a big potential in there.
Right, because like this year, it was deemed that we had to pay everybody.
Yeah.
And so there will be no savings at that same situation comes that we have to pay everybody.
Okay.
But if we are out of school and don't have to pay everybody, yes, the cost of the child nutrition program would be less, but we will still feed all the students.
Okay.
But it won't be, I'm assuming that we won't need every staff member to do that.
Okay. I need to
We will have to
understand.
continue the drive up.
Okay. I needed to understand the possible commitment, and I definitely understand it's a possibility. I just needed to understand the possible commitment. So, okay.
Oh, okay, so the motion is not to add the extra schools, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand the motion too.
Yeah.
And I just want to verify that I have the motion as that the Kansas City Board of Education accept the CEP schools at the break-even level as presented by Josh Mathismeyer. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Perfect, thank you.
But would that not, the presentation adds the additional schools?
The presentation I'm referring to is the recommended schools at the break even. So the break even is what Josh had up there that I'm saying for us to approve those schools under the break even and not for us to potentially go under the amount to have.
So that means we add the additional schools that are listed, correct, Mr. Mathismeyer?
Our recommendation is the 12 schools on the left at the break-even point.
Okay.
Your recommendation is not the additional 223?
No.
So we had a motion and it was seconded. We had questions. Can we go ahead and vote? Bridget, would you please?
Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Yolanda Clark,
Yolanda Clark, yes.
Janie Humphreys,
Janie Humphreys, yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy, yes.
Wanda Brownlee Page,
No.
Valdine Nguyen,
No.
Stacy Yeager.
Stacy, yes.
All right, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Covington, the next thing.
That's all I have. We are here to answer any additional questions. I sent back the ones we got on Monday to everybody, and we're here if we need to further discuss those.
Any board member want to make a comment? If not,
Mr. Covington,
sure.
I had a question. Originally, when you gave the report, the last time we met, or it may have been the other regular meeting, it showed that the kids would get 2 masks. Are these paper masks or are these cloth masks?
Those 2 will be cloth masks.
Okay.
Cloth reusables.
Because
but we will also have at the school some disposables if the students forget theirs that day.
Okay. And what about the life skill classes? You know, some of the teachers were concerned because they had mentioned that the young people may have a hard time keeping those masks on. And they're concerned about their safety and would shields be provided? And there was even a question mark on that. They were still concerned. Because you're dealing with a totally different group of young people, and we want to make sure we meet their needs as well as the individuals who work with them. And they're concerned about their safety. That's not my specialty. And I know I didn't send that to you earlier. I apologize. But I was just saying for future reference, can you find out a little bit more? How do we help them to make sure that they're safe? Because you're dealing
Ms. Page, I'll get with Dr. Charles.
Okay.
And I mean, we have funding in the CARES money. If there are an additional PPE stuff that we need to buy to protect those teachers, to mitigate the.
Is there some way we can talk to them? I'm not asking you to do it right now.
Yes, ma'am. We can definitely do that.
It's not my specialty, and I would defer to them because they know what they need. But a lot of them were concerned, and they talked about shields. and they were saying a lot of different things they have to deal with. And it goes with the territory.
I
They're
agree.
making sure that they provide TLC, and that's something we all do, but this calls for more. And how do we do it and protect ourselves? And that's what a lot of them had concerns about.
So Ms. Brownlee Page, I can answer a little bit about that. We have looked into the shields and we will be purchasing.
Okay. And then, again, they had some other concerns. And if there's some way we could talk to them and you can find out, because like I said, you guys are the experts. I don't know. And when they asked me, I just said I'd bring it up and hope that somebody would have a conversation with them to help them out. Because they're
Email
really,
her and let her know that information.
Yes. Okay, I will email you after our meeting to get a time that I can call so that I can get those questions and get them answered. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sweetie.
Okay.
Okay.
Madam President, I do have a couple of questions. At the last board meeting, we did vote to freeze the travel funds, the relocation funds, and also we took the signing bonuses to be case by case. I did inquire a little more from Kelly Tushman, and I will ask her to please help share or read off the information that you were able to provide extra about the breakdown of what exactly is being used for our teachers. And I know that you have provided statistics on the hard to fill positions, but Kelly Tushman, if you could review those bullet points that you shared, I think you're on.
Okay, no problem. So I think last time there was a lot of conversation about, let's just take hard to fill as a category. and of course the relocation. One of the things I wanted to clarify, because I don't think it was clear last time, is those funds are really mostly coming from Title II funds, which are set aside specifically for the purpose of recruiting and attracting talent. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that we do use some general fund money, but we use a lot of the Title II dollars to support that. So statistic wise, I had some numbers here. Let me get to it. I've got it. Just gonna find it. What we did is we went back and just looked at how many people in our district are receiving the hard to fill and how many people had already gone through board. So we've already ran, like up to this point, I think the number was 89 positions had already been through the board for SPED and math and science. And that we also have, 79 had already been approved and 35 are going through in the July 21st board meeting. So those are people that we've already committed to in some way or another. You know, they've either received an offer letter or they're expecting to get approved in the July 21st. So we've definitely made those verbal commitments to them. And I wanted to let you know that, like I said, 27 of the SPED were coming from KCK. So we are always actively looking for people in our district, but there would be 27 people in our own district, in the KCK district, that would be affected by that SPED or that hard to fill bonus. I just want to reiterate again that this is a tool that we use in recruiting to help us attract talent. And I know the other day the question was, well, will a day or two matter? The answer is yes, it does matter, because people are, right now, we're in the same competition as every other district for the same talent. And so if we can't give people definitive answers about what their offer is going to be. Even if we ultimately say yes, if they have to wait for 2 weeks to hear the yes, then they will be looking at their alternatives and taking their alternatives. And I can tell you already, we've been told that there are other districts who are trying to take away some of the people that we've already made commitments to, because they know that this is a question in our district about how the process will work. So there's people taking advantage already of the fact that we have to go through this additional approval process. So I just wanted to give you that information. It is something that they don't get paid unless they're here. So this is not something that we're making a commitment to and they could leave, because it's paid out monthly. It is paid $3,000 the first year, $2,000 the second year, and that's paid over the pay cycles. So if they are ever to leave, they just don't get that dollar. They don't continue to get paid. I'm trying to think of other questions that I could answer. Is there any other questions that the board has? I do want to advocate heavily that, that's just not a very efficient way for us as a recruiting group to operate. And we would respectfully ask that that be changed and be reconsidered to make it easier for us to hire the positions that we need to hire. Currently, we have, just so you know, 23, I think at least 23 SPED positions still available, open, and 11 math. So we still do have quite a few positions that we need to hire just to start school.
Hey, Kelly, this is Randy. Thank you for the information and for clarifying. Just a couple of pieces just to clarify and to make sure I understand correctly. So, the vote that was taken, the vote was not retroactive. So anyone that's already been approved for those bonuses, that's already gone through board approval, that the vote last week has no effect on any of those folks who have already been approved to get the signing bonuses. So they will continue to get their signing bonuses. That has it's just the ones moving forward potentially will be impacted. And then just the other piece of clarification on that, it's that the board did not eliminate that line item in terms of bonuses. It's still designated for bonuses for those hard to fill positions. It's just the caveat was that they have to be approved. It has to be approved by the board, or it's contingent on board approval before. So it can still be offered to the candidate. It's just it just still has to go through board approval before it's secured. So there's that little bit of a but that line item is still there in terms of potential signing bonuses for them. That's correct?
That's what I understand, and I want to clarify that you still have, so I just want to make sure, you have 35 new people that will be going through, I think on July 21st, that we have verbally committed to, made an offer to, and so they're waiting to hear whether they're going to receive that or not. Then on top of that, when we do make offers on anybody that we're hiring from last week, we are of course communicating that we have to, before we can tell them for sure whether we're being as positive, of course, as possible, because we want them, we're trying to make these commitments, but that we can't for sure 100% say until it goes through board approval. And so that is what we're communicating. Obviously, we are going to do everything we can to attract talent because it's in our interest to do that. But I just want to be very clear with you that it will slow down the process, and there will be other districts who, might be able to get our candidate because of the delay. So I'm just letting you know. You asked the question, I'm just giving you information, and if you're asking me what I prefer, I'm telling you what I prefer is that we do not have to go through that step. I don't know what the step is meant to do, because you've already approved hard to fill as the category. So we're not offering it to anybody except SPED, math, science, the categories that we talked about. So that's how we make those decisions. We don't make the decisions based on any other criteria. accept that they're hard to fill. Okay.
And thank you, Mrs. Tishman, because that is what I think you and perhaps Dr. Yeager, as I expressed, and I'm going to make it public here, as I expressed in my email, that we did not eliminate any signing bonuses, and the process would just clarify to us as a board, and the approval is simultaneously. So I think you are looking for a monster that doesn't exist. And I said in my email that I believe some of the back channel is an attempt to, in my opinion, and I'm saying it generic enough so that any attempt to undermine board authority, we're not making anyone's life difficult. We are within the realm of July 23rd. Excuse me?
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt. Sometimes you have to be careful about what you say as well as how you say it.
And so I'm being very polite, Ms. Drew, so I'm being very direct and clear. And I say I am expressing what I said in my email publicly, because everything is public. I believe having
how you say it. That's what I'm recommending.
I'll say it again. I'm repeating what I said in my email, that I believe that the board authority is being undermined by having, this is not the first time that when we take a position that is not threatening to anyone, that there is, excuse me, I am finished. You know what? Now, may I continue? Thank you. I'll say it again to Ms. Tishman. No one is trying to strap anyone. We have the authority to say we wanted to know on that HR report or whatever, that that person would be approved for a signing bonus. We never canceled anything. And so and I'll say it again, the monster doesn't exist. And so I do believe that this is another time that when the board took action, there was back channel secret meeting, only one side being presented, and here we are again. So,
one, the use of the word monster, that's very offensive. Two,
well, that's a general word.
Excuse me, I'm speaking.
And you know what? I'm doing the same thing that Ms. Drew said. Monster is a general word.
Monster is actually a horrible word to use when describing a situation. That's one. Two, we are all able to ask for clarification. In this process, when Ms. Tishman said it does bog down the process, I guess I'm unclear as to why we do not believe when our staff say that the process is being bogged down, that we then insult them. So that was an insult when you accused her of it not bogging down the process of what it is. I've done my research and I contacted other districts to ask them about their bonus. Every district I contacted in this area, Bonner Springs, Piper, Turner, Edwardville, all of them have instant bonus that they can offer to staff without having to beg. We see that the reasons is because it's hard to fill. That is explanatory. The reason why they're getting a bonus is because it's sped and hard to fill. We are then asking our staff to beg and plead with us to approve something. What I guess I need clarification on, what instance will we not approve a hard to fill position bonus? In what instance would the board not approve a hard to fill bonus? If there is no reason why we would need to fill a hard to fill bonus, if there's no reason why we would deny it, then there's no need to put an extra step in to hold down the process so that our teachers who we need, the 23 in SPED, the 11 in math, if we find a SPED teacher that we can say, hey, come work for our district, here is the hard to fill bonus that you are guaranteed, the same that you would get guaranteed if you go and ask another district, is no different. We're the only district who is saying, no, we can't officially say you can get this bonus for working for us. You have to wait. So I think that is what is bogging down the process and the question of, are we truly able to say we're having this process so that we can look at each one? That's digging into the weeds. We are then saying we want to be in charge of the day-to-day processes. We want to be the one who's hiring. We don't trust our hiring people to truly see that this is a hard to fill bonus and therefore it's given. So I guess I'm just unclear. When will we not give one of our hard to fill positions a no? When will we say no?
That's one of the things that I mentioned before, is we have to move forward with professional trust. They have the expertise in being able to reach out and get the hirees. But if we have to go through a process, whereas we're going to lose those individuals, and then I heard her say that there are 27 SPED teachers from Kansas City, Kansas. What more do we need? But in order for us to be able to fulfill those positions, we have to trust the HR department and the staff there that they're going to do what is necessary. If we don't, it's going to harm the district overall. And I know that they have been working diligently to try to make sure that they fulfill these positions, but we cannot constantly just cut them off. And sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that's what's most important. And that's all I've been asking, even through my presentation this morning, when I first started. We have to make sure that we try to work as a board for unification. No, we're not going to agree, but yet and still we have to reach a mutual point whereas we just move forward and not hold on. And sometimes negativity creates other problems, and we need to stop and be more positive as far as what we're doing. Kelly, thank you for your presentation.
Ms. Drew.
We are board members.
Yeah, I have a comment. Now, what I was still kind of disheartened about is that we had 35 positions open that stayed open, that weren't filled, and we used that money to buy books and things. So that bothers me sometimes with HR, because that shouldn't have happened last year, where that money was used to buy books. Now, come on, we say we got all these incentives, we got all this stuff, and we didn't hire 35 people. That money was held, and that's a problem. Now, this is just my little comment. I don't have anything else to say, but that was a problem.
Can I clarify, that money wasn't held for not the purpose of hiring. You couldn't get the people in. It's not that HR is not hiring, it's the school. They are the hiring manager. The positions were vacant. It's just not that we didn't have a vacancy, that we had vacancies. Our other surrounding districts had vacancies also. And in any corporation, you will have a vacancy. If you have a vacancy, that's unfilled dollars that are there. That's just how that works. That's a budgetary thing. But it wasn't that it was intentional that you just don't fill the positions. You have to find the most effective person. And I don't know any school district that has all of their special ed personnel hired. I just don't. Every math teacher, every science teacher, as I stated before, KU doesn't even have their math education department anymore. They're not doing it anymore because we don't have enough math people going into those. So again, I welcome the board to go on recruiting events with them. I think that would be great for you to go see how they recruit, to go to the universities with them. I think that would be amazing for you to step out and do those things so you can hear it firsthand. There's no one's trying to hide anything. And that's the sense that I think that we're getting. There's no hidden anything. If someone is coming through and the principal brings them and they meet the criteria and the background goes through, HR is not standing in the way. There's no throwing away. You can't throw an application away. They have to do it online, and there's a process of why it goes online. There's no paper application. So if someone said they put in an application, you can go back, we can call Frontline and say, hey, since they made a profile, that application should still be there. If the person didn't make a profile, the application's not there. But there's no one in this system who can actually delete an application. So we can't go down the road of saying that people are deleting applications because we don't have the, you don't have that right in the system. You can't go in and do it. That's a programmable situation at the front line. So, and you don't want them to have that because of legal rights. You want them to be able to say, if you apply for this position, if you have your sign-on, you should be able to see it.
Well, Dr. Faust, we're not trying to stand in your way. We're just trying to, well, I'm just trying to ask for us to be accountable. So my comment to Ms. Dr. Yeager is that we are not bottlenecks. We are not standing in the way. We are looking for more transparency. And if they are hired, then thank goodness the computer system will not allow you, because applications have disappeared in the past. But we'll move forward, and thank you, Ms. Drew.
Mr. Drew, Madam President, I would like to make a motion that we reinstate the signing bonuses to our hard-to-fill positions, and so that we do not create a bottleneck for hiring our hard-to-fill. So again, I would like to make a motion that we reinstate the signing bonuses for our hard-to-fill positions and allow recruiting to be able to offer them to teachers.
Could I get a second, please? I second it.
And I have the Board of Education reinstate the hiring bonuses.
The signing
bonuses. Thank you, sweetie.
For hard-to-fill positions.
Bonuses for hard-to-fill positions.
Yes, and the intent behind it is so that we will not create that bottleneck for our recruiters and for getting teachers in that we need to fill these 34 positions.
Well, can we ask a question now?
Yes.
Okay. How is it a bottleneck and it still has to be approved by the board?
Because the way we approved it, it says by case basis. So when they're out recruiting and they have someone sitting in front of them, because I have been a part of the recruiting sessions, I have sat in and saw the offers. Right then and there, they can say, this is your salary, what it's going to be, and this is the bonuses added to the salary. When we say by case, that then says, these are bonuses you could get if the board has, passes it, because we put case by case. So that means that if it comes to us and we say no, then they have to go back to that person and say, we thought we could, but we couldn't.
But it's still contingent upon the board approving their situation anyway. If we stopped and said, okay, 1, 2, 3, yes, we want to pull 4, 5, 6, 7.
But why would we pull 5, 7?
Okay, but if we thought that there was something wrong, we found out some information about them, I mean, that could happen.
You're saying about their employment, we would pull them, but what would cause us to?
Okay, for example, if we heard something and found out something about them, you could pull it. That could still happen.
But this is specific to the bonus. So we said we would only approve bonuses on case by case. So what case would come to the board that we would say this person can get it, but this person can't get the bonus?
If we found something out about them and decided we didn't want them at all, we're not going to give them the bonus. We're not going to approve them getting through. I mean, we still have that option as a board. That's all I'm saying. Either way, they still have to come through us.
Okay, let's go ahead and vote.
No, excuse me, please. Further discussion. There's no reason for the motion because the bonus was never taken away. So that the basis of the motion is false because the signing bonuses for hard to fill still are in place. They come to us when we approve the position.
I'm removing the catalyst that says case by case, meaning that
then you don't have to reinstate the bonus because the bonus was never taken away. The logic is false of your motion. So, I mean, I will have to vote no because I'm not going to vote to take the bonus away.
We'll get clarification from Greg. Greg, hi. Would you suggest wording for what we're trying to do?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to do. What I understood you guys did last time, and there was more to it than just the signing bonus, if I remember right. Was there a motion that before those could be offered to a employee or a prospective employee, you had to come to the board and get prior approval on a case-by-case basis?
Yes.
I'm paraphrasing that, so that may not be exactly what the motion said. So the way I would understand that is before you had that motion, the way it would work is you would get the hiring committee would meet with an employee. They would recommend somebody for hiring. They would be given an offer letter that would include their compensation based upon the salary schedule. It would also include any hard to fill position bonus. I don't know if it would include a moving expense or not. You'd have to ask Ms. Tushman that. That's the letter that would be given to the prospective employee. It always would say subject to approval by the board and subject to a background check. Then that person would be placed on the HR report for approval at the next board meeting, or after the background check would pass, it would be another meeting in between there. And the board would either pass it or not pass it. Or as Ms. Page indicates, in some situations, we might have an employee's name gets pulled and they don't get hired based upon a board decision not to hire that specific individual. What I understand the last motion, the change to be, and if I'm misunderstanding it, then so be it. But what I'm understanding is instead of having that offer letter go to that employee that says, you're going to have this salary, you're going to have this signing bonus, you're going to have this moving expense, the signing bonus and moving expense would not be in that offer letter. That would only be approved after it goes through the board and then offered to the employee at that point in time. So that's the two differences I understand. I don't think the bonus has ever gone away, as Dr. Wynn says. It is simply the timing of when that can be offered to the specific employee or the prospective employee.
So what would be the proper wording so that it can go back to what they originally were doing?
Do you want me to read the motion that passed last time? Would that help?
Yes. Yeah, you probably should.
It was that the Kansas City Board of Education for 2020-2021, the district temporarily freeze travel funds, relocation funds, and signing bonuses to be taken on a case-by-case individual basis.
So I guess if you were trying to undo that, you would remove the freeze on signing bonuses and allow those to be offered as part of the offer sheet, subject to still to approval by the Board of Education.
Did you get that, Bridget?
I did. I'm going to go ahead and Greg,
Can I
I'm
ask
going to ask you to repeat it.
clarification? Is that also including the relocation bonus? Because that is part of it as well. I mean,
That's not what I'm hearing. But
okay, that's what they, yeah, I know, just asking.
Okay, Greg, could you repeat that one more time? I apologize.
I'm not sure if I can repeat it exactly, but
I know, I understand.
I think that if the idea is to allow the signing bonus to be offered without pre-approval by the board on a case-by-case basis, that you would unfreeze the signing bonus and permit the hiring committee to include the signing bonus in an offer for a position that's hard to fill in accordance with the board's policies and the negotiated agreement, with the final decision on hiring still subject to board approval and background check.
Got it. Thank you.
Now, technically, you still have a motion that's on, that's made and seconded, and that's not the motion.
Got it. Thank you, sweetie.
Still there.
So we would just do the friendly amendment.
So Stacey, you want to remove your motion?
Yes.
So you wanted to pull that?
Yes, remove the motion on the floor and to make the motion of what Greg just read.
Education. Allow
To be offered.
Write that, allow the
Hiring to be offered, subject to approval by the board.
Perfect. Thank you. The hiring committee to offer signing.
Any other comments?
Well, so this is Randy. For clarification purposes, I was kind of under the impression, so maybe I misinterpreted the motion last week as well, or what was approved last week. So I didn't think it was that the signing bonus could not be made in terms of the offer anymore, that it could still be offered. It would just, it would have had that language, as you said, Greg, contingent upon board approval. So maybe
well, I think the motion last week was to freeze it, which would suggest to me that it could not be offered by staff, that it would have to come in front of the board.
No,
well,
that was not the intent. That was not the intent, and that was not the understanding of people voting, Greg.
But
well,
that's
the motion clearly says to freeze it. I'm not trying to, I don't know what anybody's intent was, but the motion was to freeze it, and by freezing it, I think you're removing the ability of administration to make that as an offer. I think they'd have to come back to the board on a case-by-case basis, or run the risk of making an offer that hadn't been approved by the board.
So I want to make a motion that we, as Greg just said, for us to do that process.
Allow the hiring committee to offer signing bonuses without prior approval by the Board of Education.
That's my motion.
For hard to fill positions.
For hard to fill position. Thank you, Greg.
You want to include the travel in that as well?
No.
No.
I think we would need to do those separate.
Okay, I just wanted to ask. Thank you.
And any final offer would still be subject to board approval and background.
And any final offer will be subject to board approval. Thank you.
Thank you. So the motion has been made. Could we get it seconded? I second it.
Okay, now time for questions.
Yes.
Okay, so when the HR report comes before the board and John Doe is there and it says the salary that they're being offered. It will show that they're being offered a hard to fill signing bonus of so much money, and it will say what fund it's coming out of, correct? It'll say hard to fill, SPED out of Title II funds, right? Ms. Tishman?
Yes, we can do that.
So everyone will know that this person is getting a signing bonus and it's coming out of this fund. If it's a math signing bonus, it's coming out of this fund. Everyone will see exactly what that person's being offered so that everyone will know it's equitable across the board.
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking for her to add?
That's what I'm asking for it to show when the person's name comes across the HR report. Everyone knows that this person's getting a hiring bonus.
I can do that.
Does that what everyone understands will show up when someone's name is on the HR report?
It's fine.
So.
And Ms. Tishman, are you saying that you are hiring everyone that applies now, or you or your hiring managers?
I don't hire, first off. It is the hiring manager that hires. I'm just saying, so I don't control all the hiring. I know what we do, and that is to make sure the applications.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as you have stated and corrected me, are you saying your hiring managers, because you say time is such of importance, that your hiring managers are hiring every application that comes across their desk?
No, we don't hire
no idea.
everyone. There's a hiring process that has to be followed, and then they have to make sure.
No. We assume you're following the process. We're talking about process here because you all are saying that any pre-approval or prior approval will bottleneck. So we don't want to provide any bottleneck. So I just said, because you are saying time is such an essence, are your hiring managers hiring everyone that is applying?
No, they're not hiring everyone that applies.
Okay, everyone that's qualified, they're applying.
Everyone that follows their process and gets through, they still use the exact same hiring process.
Correct. So if they meet all the credentials and they go through the process, they're hired.
No.
Oh, what hangs up now? What's the bottleneck?
I don't know really what the question is. I mean, the hiring managers.
What are we getting at here?
I'm asking Ms. Tishman, so thank you.
But I don't really understand the question because it is the hiring manager makes the hiring decision. So I don't get into all the details of every hire is all I'm saying.
Okay.
So.
But I just wanted to make sure I understood that when the name's on the HR report, we'll know we'll know everything that they're getting in that little box, all their stipends, because they get an educational stipend for having a master's or the PhD.
We'll know if they're getting information to be printed in that document that we've always gotten in the past.
They've been expanding it lately. At first, we didn't used to get all the educational stipends and stuff, but they've added that recently. So now we'll know if they're getting a hiring bonus or relocation funds and stuff. But okay, I just wanted to make sure that all of us knew what we were getting, so we're all on the same page.
Okay, it's the board decision to make to tell me if they want it on there or not. I can do it.
Why do you want it on there, Janie? That's what I don't understand.
So that all of us know who is getting a hard to fill stipend, so that we all know and understand, so we don't get surprised when we look at reports later. Because when we got those reports earlier about some of us didn't know that some people got relocation expenses. Some of us didn't know that people got hard to fill stipends. This way, everyone knows that all the math teachers got the same stipend, that all the special ed people got the same stipend. It shows equity. So that way no one is surprised that someone got a relocation stipend.
Okay, but if we give them approval to do that, and when we get ready to look at our budget, we will get that information at that time. Why is it necessary to specifically list all that information in if we already have agreed for them to be able to get the stipend?
Because some people want to know And to alleviate some of the drama, what would it kill to put that in there? It wouldn't
I'm
hurt.
fine doing it.
It wouldn't hurt to do it.
Can do it.
For
We'll
the
we'll have it in there.
yeah,
It'll be in there. It'll
Yeah.
be in there. Let's call for the vote. Let's call for the vote.
Okay, let's go ahead and move and go ahead for the vote.
All right, Maxine Drew,
Maxine Drew, yes.
Yolanda Clark,
And I just got back online. I'm so sorry, I got kicked out. Can you tell me what the actual vote is?
The motion is that the Kansas City Board of Education allow the hiring committee to offer signing bonuses without prior approval by the Board of Education for hard-to-fill positions, and any offer will be subject to board approval.
And that is the only change that we're making to the prior vote.
Yes.
That's the only motion that is on the table.
Correct.
Yes.
Continue on, Bridget.
Oh,
Yes.
Yolanda Clark,
Yes.
Janie Humphries,
Yes.
Randy Lopez,
Randy Lopez, and before I cast my vote, I just want to say that last week's vote, I misinterpreted apparently because I was not thinking that we were freezing that piece of it. So that was misinterpreted. I misinterpreted. So I just want to say that that was not my intent of my vote last week. Just wanted to clarify that. Randy Lopez, yes.
all right. Wanda Brownlee Page,
Wanda Brownlee Page, no.
I'm sorry?
No.
Okay, thank you, sweetie. Valdenia Nguyen,
As long as the motion includes the other information for, make sure the motion includes the other information on the HR report, but because I believe there's undermining going on, I have to vote no.
Stacey Yeager,
I vote yes, and the distrust for administration has got to stop. The
Motion
word
is approved.
and
Thank you, everybody.
disrespect has got to stop.
And Madam President, people are allowed to give an explanation of vote. So I made my explanation and there was never the intent to not give the bonus. So you can take it for what it's worth.
It's not that we're not saying that you were not willing to give the bonus. At this point, again, I'm asking you to please be careful about what you say publicly.
And I say publicly so there will not be any misstatements about what I say.
Okay.
And that's very important because that also occurs. So that was my explanation of vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on, please. Anyone else with anything?
I would just, no, nothing else.
Okay.
Nothing else.
Yeah, I have something, and I wanted to ask Mr. Covington if this is possible, that the next time we meet for the budget, you know, a lot of things have been thrown around, but I would like to see a sheet of what we approved and monies that have already been allocated, and then what monies we have left and how that fits in, because that should be able to come on a 1 or 2 sheet paper. The next
Ms.
time.
Page, back in April, when I presented the budget that we need to present, based on that, we have an approved $5.1 million increase.
Right.
That's what you all would need to approve on September 21st. So I will have a 1-pager that shows what all those lines are, including anything we took out of the budget and anything that we had to add into the budget.
Okay, but I'm just saying, you saying September. I'm saying.
I'm sorry, July. I'm sorry, July.
Why are we waiting so long?
July 21st.
Oh, now you're helping me. You scared me for a second.
Forgive me, July 21st.
Okay, to see that.
Then we got to take those numbers to put them into the Form 99, and we have to ride up to Topeka and review that with Dennis and Newsenbrock, and then come back on your September 28th special call meeting to approve that to be published in the paper.
Got another question for you. Now, when you do that, will that include the CARES Act, or is that just a separate budget?
No, that's separate. You don't have to have that allocated in your Form 99.
Okay, got it.
So I would like, Madam President, to have us consider $15 an hour minimum for our employees. We have never taken a vote on that.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to do that.
That's what I was waiting for. Thank you.
Got it? Let me get the form here. And Dr. Nguyen, I'm ready for your motion.
I move that we use the figures, if they're correct, and that's not saying anything other than if they are correct, that we would bring all of our employees up to a minimum $15 an hour.
Second. Moved and seconded that we would bring.
And I'm sorry, who, Dr. Nguyen, who moved it? Dr. Nguyen?
Ms. Page.
Correct.
Ms. Page, got it. And who seconded?
No, Dr. Nguyen moved it.
Sorry, sweetie, that's what I meant. And Ms. Page, thank you. And I want to make sure I get this correct. Bring all employees up to a $15 minimum.
Is this for classified?
This is for all employees.
Okay.
Got it. All right. Let me know when you're ready to vote.
Okay, any questions?
Yes, I have a couple of questions. One, I don't think we have the numbers for all of our staff to be moved to 15%. $15 an hour, excuse me. Second, I think it's going to take longer than next Tuesday to be able to get the correct figures for what we would do in the case of if people are currently at $15 an hour, we cannot keep them at 15. We would have to move them too. So I think there needs to be a deeper dive into what $15 impact would be. I would agree to do research on it and get recommendations, but I have not seen a full report on what it would take to take everyone $15 an hour plus those who are at 15 to move them up, because I'm sure that there's leaders who are making $15 an hour, and we can have people who are reporting to other people making that same 15. So that's my comment.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, may
Yes.
I add a comment, please?
Yes.
In the original budget, there was a proposal of all classified getting a 2% stipend.
Okay.
And to do that will cost us $1.4 million.
Okay.
And on top of that, if we then therefore increase everybody else on top of the 2% to get them to $15 an hour, that means after you got the 2%, you were still below 15. So to increase everybody to the 15 mark would be another $1,100,000. So the total to do the total increase of all our classified based as you all are proposing would be right at $2.6 million. But that does not address the issue that Dr. Yeager just said, that that's going to cause a compounding of people that are currently above 15. So you're going to suppress the salaries.
Mr. Covington, those who have $15 an hour, if you give them a 2% increase, does that not increase their salary?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Therefore, they would not be at $15 an hour, correct?
That's correct, ma'am.
So therefore, if we're paying board members, we have something like 150 or so people making over $100,000, plus $15,000 or $20,000 worth of fringe benefits. That's just that category. We have a lot of, we have looked to bring our shop and our custodians up. I think it's criminal that with these top salaries, we still have individuals who are making less than $15 an hour. So sounds like the comment, one of the comments, past comments could be interpreted of, well, let's just go slowly. Well, going slowly and someone's making less than $15 an hour and someone's making $180,000 an hour with a large number of benefits, the discrepancy is just too great for us to sit here and act like it isn't impacting negatively these people's lives.
Okay, thank you.
So,
comments. There we go.
I think we probably need to get input from our human resource person. We did pay for a comp study to be done, and I remember there was a presentation relating to additional research to bring people up to salary. So when Dennis, you mentioned compressed schedule, say the supervisor is making $16 an hour and we give them a 2% raise. Okay, so now they're making $6.50. So now we've taken people who make $10 an hour now up to $15. We're still suppressing that person who is making $16.50. So I would like to hear from our human resource person who we paid for a comp study last year.
Well, what you paid for last year and still are paying for is a comp analyst, which we hired. Because again, we had made a decision as a board last year to adjust or look at our classified staff. We know that there are many places in classified that we need to be making adjustments. We'd like to be looking at. We have started that process. I'm happy to, we can present some information if that's what you're interested in looking at. But yes, that's why we made the proposal last year. As you recall, you gave $500,000 for us to adjust the custodial and shop employees, which is what the proposal is. And we can certainly, and would want to actually, be looking at adjusting other classified staff as well. And we could do it obviously based on market data, which is what we would be looking at for each position.
Could you also explain, or Dennis, you said it can compress the salaries. Could you explain that a little more, what that means?
I was just saying exactly what Kelly just stated, and what Dr. Nguyen had commented on was true. But what I was saying, there may be a group of supervisors that, like you said, are making $16 an hour. But now you bring the people up to them, under them up to $15 an hour. That suppresses that salary schedule. That's all I was saying. Yeah, but I do have an additional comment that I need to make sure that we're all on the same page about. The original budget, as you all recall, is the 5.1 million increase. That's a paper budget. Remember, we also put together what if our revenues come in as the state had projected, and that was a $9.3 million decrease after you add the 5.1. If you recall, we put in a lot of one-time stipends into the teachers, and the 2% that we're discussing for classified is a stipend that will go away next year. If you put in increase to $15, is that permanent money? Then that will mean that we have to go back and make the 2% permanent. And then the teachers may have an issue that we made classified permanent, but left theirs as stipends as one-time payments. Just want to put everything out in the open.
Yeah, and Mr. Covington, I would respond to you that someone who's making less than $15 an hour, if someone who is making 75 to 80 or the 180 has the nerve to look them in the face and say, oh, are we going to make this permanent? I would say, first, you got a lot of nerve. That person has a lot of nerve looking them in the eye and saying, oh, I got an issue with you making less than $15 an hour. For me, it's principle. You have given, and for Dr. Yeager, I guess maybe she didn't see the item D that you submitted to us. 1.121.31254 cents. 552 employees, which is a large percentage of what we have. What's our total employee number?
About 4,400. Okay,
but we got 552 making less than $15 an hour. My response would be, how dare you even question the ability of a $400 million budget, not bringing them up to $15 an hour?
And again, it's not just about bringing it up to,
data.
Excuse me. it's not about just bringing one group of people up to 15. We have to also consider taking up the other areas. We have to look at the bigger picture.
That's true, but you've been leaving them behind.
So can we go ahead and let's vote on the proposal that was made by Dr. Nguyen, please?
Madam Drew, Madam President, I'm sorry, this is Randy. Just so I wanted to clarify before, I appreciate you wanting to get to the vote. I really do, and I'm not trying to hold us up. But I just feel like I need more information in order to make a vote either way. I am all in agreement with Dr. Nguyen that it's a shame that we have folks making less than $15 an hour, that our salary schedule, not just in district, but nationwide, has not kept up with inflation of, and that we're not properly paying folks what they deserve and what's an actual livable wage. And it's a shame that we as a district are perpetuating that as well. But so I wanted to say I'm all for being at $15 minimum wage for all of our employees. I just feel like I need a little more information, some of the stuff that we've been talking about during this conversation. So I don't feel that I can actually make an informed vote that I could be confident in right now in terms of, I mean, I'm all confident in bringing everybody up to $15 an hour, but I agree that we would have to look at, okay, how do we adjust the salaries for other folks? So I would ask, I don't know how it works, to table this vote maybe till next week, and see if Ms. Tishman, Mr. Covington, other HR folks could actually bring together a proposal of what that would actually look like if we get folks up to $15 an hour. And then what would it do with other staff, taking into consideration the conversation that's happened already. So I would really ask for that. Otherwise, I don't feel comfortable making a vote right now, because I don't know what that impact would be long-term, as Mr. Covington was just talking about, moving everybody to $15 an hour moving forward. And I want to be fair to our other employees as well, to make sure the salary is adjustable, or adjusted correctly. So I would just ask, and Dr. Nguyen, I know you made the motion, and I agree with you in terms of $15 an hour. I would just ask if you would be amenable to maybe getting some more information so that we can have, maybe bring everybody up to scale of where they should be on the pay scale, and not just
The only reason I'm chuckling is that we don't seem to have a problem voting for $180,000 jobs, or those $150,000 jobs. Those are smooth sailing. But when you have 552 people that include bus aides, library aides, custodial, a secretary, subs, they're making less than 15. This is what it costs to bring them to 15. Now, all of a sudden you have 3,000. I'm answering the question.
Do you want to table it, or do you want to continue with your vote?
I agree with tabling it, because we as a board can vote to table an issue.
You sure can.
But what I just want to know, since you made the motion, would you prefer that we go ahead and vote on it?
I will agree to tabling, but let's be specific to have enough information so that we don't dance around this any longer, because you dance with people's lives.
Thank you.
And I would like to have a date. I like the date of the 21st. I don't want it being off forever. I would like a drop dead date on when we're going to address it.
Right, and if we cannot address it on the 21st because we need more information, then that's okay too.
Well,
no, it's
no.
Okay.
I want a date when we are going to address it. It's something that we need to look at in a timely fashion.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that
we have things that are going on for the 21st. I would do it at our first board meeting in the month of August to address it. So that'll give them time to be able to work and get information, to compile it and bring it to us.
But then we would be pushing it to the next fiscal year, unfortunately, and leaving it out this fiscal year. So I don't know that would be appropriate.
It's okay. Dennis, are you saying it's okay? You will have the information on the 21st. Are you guys saying that that's the date?
We'll get
Yes, we will have information on the 21st, but if the intent of the board is to take it to 15, you have to pass it on the 21st so we can get it in this year's budget.
Yeah, I think it needs
If
to be
not, it will have
addressed.
to go all the way to next July.
Get the information.
Okay.
Yes.
And Wanda, do you agree for the tabling since you
Oh, I
seconded?
sure will. That'll work. If he can get the information by the 21st, that'll work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fishman and Mr. Covington.
So since we're tabling, because I completely agree with that statement as well, and I also agree that people should be fairly paid. In that statement, the $15 an hour is the consultant that came in. Is that a separate conversation, or is that?
It's not a consultant. This is.
I didn't know the name of the person.
Yeah, we have a comp analyst that we hired last year.
Okay.
And that person's on our staff. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's all.
So is that a separate conversation or is that the same conversation?
The data
Well, I
would
think you're
include
asking for both, right? Yeah.
The data would include what they recommend when we looked at all classified as to trying to get them right on the salary schedule.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't have to answer this question. I'm just putting it out there. When we're going through the data and we're looking, how does that impact our union workers or our actual people that are in trades? Because that's where we spent some of the time. How does that impact the ones that are actually certified to do their jobs versus not? And I know you're looking at numbers and looking at salaries. So I just want to put that out there as well, because we do have some union workers.
Right. We presented at the last meeting the adjustments for the union workers.
Yeah.
Right.
We've already done that adjustment.
You all, my brain is full. Y'all giving me lots of information, so that's fine. I'll go back and look at it. I just want to make sure that part had been said.
Yeah,
Okay.
that we spent the $500,000 that the board approved in last year's budget to adjust the shop and the custodians.
Did we have a vote on that?
No, ma'am, hasn't been approved.
Okay.
It was just presented.
I think we need to pay attention to that as well.
Yes, ma'am.
And maybe that's where the disconnect is. I mean, because sure, we had the conversation. I was just making sure that and we can talk about it later. I just wanted to make sure that as we are moving forward with approving whatever we approve, that had definitely been looked at, because we don't want anyone to feel like they've spent their time getting certified and we never acknowledge that as we are increasing. So I'll stop there.
And I have a point of clarification as well, because I heard a couple of things. One, is it going to be a one-time thing, or two, it's a permanent plus the 2%? So I think what I'm hearing is, are we going to have to make a decision of moving everyone $15 and up to compensate, or thinking of not doing the 2%? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, he could check both. Give us the data.
That's what I'm clarifying.
Right. I will present to you guys what it would take just to do the 2% as a stipend. And then if you want to take it permanently, the 2% would be a permanent salary increase plus the additional money to get everybody to the $15. And all of that will be permanent in the budget, that you have to have the money in the budget every year.
Well, I thought
we're going to do the analysis on the market. Well, what I heard you ask for, what I think Randy was asking for, is what was the analysis, just like we did with the custodials and the shop, the analysis that would basically put them at the right level based on their years of experience and skills.
Right.
So
that was the
other
data that we're going to show.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
But Mr. Covington, are these numbers correct? That these numbers that first, are these numbers correct, which would just move these individuals to $15 an hour?
Yes, after they get the 2% increase. The total cost is make sure everybody gets to the 15, the two numbers added together.
Okay, so I hope everyone understands that you've already presented just straight $15 an hour, who those people are currently below. So not to muddy the water, Because once you then start talking about where they should be in the universal as a para, you're, in my opinion, you're broadening, you're making it more complicated and you're making it more costly. But the lowest amount could be 1.1 million, 552 people who their minimum is $15 after they get a 2% like everybody else. That's what you just wrote.
Yes. So the total to do that is 1.4 to go to 2%, an additional 1.1 to make sure they get to 15.
So that's not what your title, that's what your header says. Your header says increase all to minimum 15 after 2% increase.
Correct. So after I give them a 2%, they
After
still going to be below the
everybody
15.
After everybody gets 2%.
Yes.
Then you after everybody gets 2%, they still are not at $15 an hour, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
It'd be 1.1.
That's correct.
That even makes it more criminal. Thank you for that explanation.
Yes, ma'am.
That even after a 2% increase, they still are not at 15% an hour.
That is correct. And my only comment was I agree that the salaries need to be adjusted. I was just only making the distinction between one-time funding and permanently putting something in the budget and how that relates to us funding it.
Well, you don't take away your 2% after every year unless you don't go backwards on any percentage increase.
Right.
Correct.
If you give a salary increase, you don't. But
And
right now the proposal is a stipend.
Okay, so nobody's talking about a stipend. We said increase. When you say minimum, that means salary.
Right.
Okay, so we will look at everything on July 21st and we will make our decision as a board. Thank you, board members, for that. On our agenda, it mentioned that there was an executive session. I'm not aware of that. I guess that was just an error that was put on the agenda.
That was an error from before. It's not currently on there.
Thank you. So with that being said, could I get a motion that we adjourn our meeting?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the meeting will be adjourned. Thank you all for everything that you have done. We appreciate each and every one of you. And this meeting is adjourned. Thanks.